So here we are in Dubbo. I'm testing my new GoPro mount. It's a suction cup. Lets the camera stick to the windshield, which is nice. It also has a skeleton body, so I can plug the power outlet from the car's USB port into the camera, which means I can record until I run out of film instead of when the battery goes flat, which is what usually happens. So here we are at the top of Arana Mall car park. Hang on. Car is a hybrid, Lexus hybrid, and it is currently running in EV mode, which is basically in a car park silent electric murder machine mode. Pedestrians can't hear it and they just step out in front. Unfortunately, when you appear before the judge and say, the pedestrian didn't hear me so I run over him, not a good impression. Doesn't work. It is currently 1 PM Saturday afternoon, and I thought we'd go for a drive around Dubbo. Just have a look at the place. It's not a big city. Could be called a large rural city, but it's one of the largest in the western northwest of this state. Going downtown, I need to go the long way out. Yep, obviously the car running in silent electric murder mode means other cars can't see it either. Yep. This service station sells some of the cheapest petrol in Dubbo, but I don't use it because it's bad petrol. Two previous cars I owned, a Holden Chimera and a Toyota Camry, wouldn't run on that petrol. I don't know if it was bad fuel or dirty or what, but put a tank load of fuel in that from that station and I'd have to have the tank drained and everything cleaned out. I suspect it was dirty fuel, which is why it's so cheap. Left now, about to go around Dan Murphy's liquor barn. This is where they sell all the beer. I seem to spend a lot of time in there. They keep adding new ones that I've never tried before. I think they're trying to kill me. Illawarra Street. The speed camera vehicle usually sits at the bottom of this hill, which is unfair. It's a 50 zone, but to sit where cars can't help going faster is just a pain in the bum. Yes, football's on today at Caltex Park. Used to be known as Apex Oval, but Caltex gave the Dubbo Shire Council $50,000 a year and call it Caltex Oval now. I suppose it's some revenue for the council. I don't know what they spend it on. They certainly don't spend it on the roads. Except it's not called the Dubbo Shire Council anymore. It's called Dubbo Regional Council. Dubbo Shire Council and Wellington Shire Council were amalgamated forcibly by the state government to form one large shire. It's now called the Dubbo Regional Council. Now the government did a study to see which councils were failing, which shires couldn't maintain their services because they were too big and underfunded. And of that survey, only 2 councils were found to be self-funding, and one was Dubbo, the other was Wellington. Of course, the state government just threw the report out and forcibly amalgamated them anyway. Everyone protested, no one wanted it. We got it anyway. So the showground's on our right. This is where the Dubbo show is every year, every May. Fun for all the family. Expensive rides, fairy floss, salmonella on sticks. Great fun. Roadworks. Brilliant. That Aldi store on our right is the largest Aldi in the southern hemisphere. When they built it, I thought it was unusually big, and I talked to the manager about that, and he said, no, biggest in the southern hemisphere. I thought it was the biggest in Australia, but he said southern hemisphere. There's something going on in the skate park today. Oh, of course, first day of school holidays. All the kids are out. We're now travelling down Talbragar Street, heading west. Dubbo rail station is on our right. This is one of the 2 main shopping centres in the town. On both sides of the corners here, on the car park in front of us to the left and that Victoria View building on our right, used to be pubs until someone from Sydney bought them and took the licenses to build new pubs in Sydney. Of course, that means Dubbo lost 2 of its pubs. They weren't great pubs, they were pubs. We're heading down Talbragar Street, one of our 2 primary shopping centres, shopping streets. This is the main central business district. There's a number of smaller shopping areas around the town, but this is the big one. Left this next roundabout, that's Dubbo Regional Library on our right, diagonally opposite us. Now turning on to Macquarie Street. About 15 years ago, the council spent a fortune doing this street up. Everyone complained because they said it was making it narrow and sticking trees up the middle. Why would you want trees in the middle of the street? Well, it looks good. 15 years later, it looks good. That's the entrance to the jail there on our left. In operation until the 60s. Closed down and left abandoned for 15 years or so, and then reopened to the Ford 73 Coupe. Oh, look at, beautiful, look at that. Oh man, look at the car. You don't see many of them around anymore. Back in the day when you didn't need fuel economy or much safety, had seat belts. Suspension was pretty bad. Didn't have airbags or crumple zones. What a car. So what do we get now? Well, since Ford Australia's closed, we get Mustangs, great in a straight line, can't stop, can't turn corners. And maybe all the Ford Australia engineers went over to America and started designing the new ones, I don't know. Still travelling up Macquarie Street. Traffic is unusually flowing on Saturday afternoon. Normally when the shops close at this time of day, the place comes to a standstill, but not today. I wonder what's happened. Come on. Right, that's the end of the shopping centre. Coming to the... Still heading along Macquarie Street. I thought we'd go on a bit of a magical mystery tour. Football fields. In about an hour they're going to be full of hundreds of kids playing soccer. Sorry, football. Now, passing underneath the LH Ford Bridge. The pylons on this bridge have been painted by local kids in an indigenous style. Echidnas, look at that. Hey. The kids used to be the taggers. They would travel around town writing their silly tags on everything until they got caught. And they were handed over to one of the local artists who said, "You want to paint on walls? I'll show you how to do it properly." And he did. Of course, one of the kids then had one of his paintings tagged by another kid, and he got really upset. Said things along the lines of, "Don't they respect other people's property? I put a lot of work into this," and so on. He had a really big sook, and everyone just laughed at him. Said, "Now you know how we feel." And the river's up. You can't really see it from here. Burrendong Dam is currently at 120% capacity, releasing 100 megalitres of water an hour, and it's still going up. We had a lot of rain here. This is the rail bridge to the northwest. Now chuck a left here, we'll go back across the LH Ford Bridge. Take much more rain for that river to become a flood. About 10 years ago, the area we're driving through was under 3 metres of water. Caused a lot of damage to the shopping centre, especially all the car parks and electrical substations which are down on the river level. There's planning for you. Ford Bridge. This was built back in the early 70s, I think. They cut corners on the foundations, and in the middle it sank. As you can see, the road here dips downwards because they bodged up the foundations in the middle of the river. They managed to stabilise it, but ultimately cost 3 times the cost of the foundations if they'd done it properly the first time. So yay for false economies. Don't you love them? We are about to cross Macquarie Street again. Off to our left is the shopping centre we drove through. Travelling along Cobra Street. Which has the alternative name of Mitchell Highway. If we stay on this road, we end up in Sydney. If we head in this direction, if we chuck a U-ey and head behind us, we end up in Queensland. And people don't realise that Dubbo is almost exactly halfway between Melbourne and Sydney. Melbourne and Brisbane. It's a 4.5 hour drive to Sydney. I'll film that one day. But as a time lapse, I won't make you sit through an entire 4.5 hour trip. It's not that interesting. I think I'll time lapse it. 1 second a minute. Or 1 frame a second. 1 frame a second. What's that? 1 frame a second. That's about 2 seconds per minute of travel. Yeah, that sounds good. Had someone scrape the paint off the bumper bar in the rear of us. And it's a P plater, of course. Is the old RAAF depot. It was the armament store during World War II. Every so often somebody building a new house on the outskirts of this depot come across an old air raid shelter. They're still there, they're just buried and forgotten about. Time to head home. Actually, I think it's time to buy some lunch. I think a curry meat pie sounds good, and I know just where to get one. So we'll chuck a left here. It's also on the way home, but I won't take you home. I don't want my home on your video. Crossing our path. And normally I'd go right there to head home, but I hear Pies calling me, so I think I'll go up here to the Mile Street shops. park here. The pies are calling me.